Welcome back to News Extra and welcome back to the rainy streets of Norwich, where today, like everywhere else in the world, people have been coming to terms with the election of America's 45th president, Donald J. Trump.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. We have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. It's time. I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans, and this is so important to me.
Well, that's what the man himself said after beating Hillary Clinton and ending 8 years of Democratic dominance of the White House. But what about the reaction here in Norfolk? Well, over the next 10 minutes or so, we'll try and give you a flavour.
I think that's a terrible decision. Personally, myself, I think that's bad for America and bad for the world. I just don't see how he's got a chance with a reputation what he's supposed to have got.
I think he's an unknown quantity regarding because he has no experience of military, very limited in politics, and yes, he's got a good business brain as he wouldn't have developed and got to where he is now.
This building the wall across between Mexico and them, I mean, that sounds a bit like the Russians and the Germans all over again.
I don't know whether I can say I was surprised or not. I think I had an inkling that he was going to get in because he's just so controversial, and I think people in America have, fed up with the same thing, and, I think it'd be a good thing. I don't think it'd be doom and gloom.
He comes over as a joke, not a seriously minded politician at all. And I think we just have to hope for the best. I mean, if he calls the Queen sweet babe and all this, I mean, we'll all think it's a joke, and apparently that's what he's going to call the other leaders.
We've got far more important things to worry about at the moment rather than what's happening in America. I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet with regards to terrorism, immigration, that type of thing. But I think at the end of the day, we really should be concentrating on our situation with Europe more so than the American elections. That's my own view on that.
A snapshot there of what you've made of it all. And back here in the Norwich newsroom, reaction's been pouring in all day. Let's have a quick look at some tweets. Our very own Jake Humphrey said it was the worst alarm call he'd ever had, and he said the world was changing before our eyes. As for Norfolk's MPs, George Freeman called it a stunning demonstration of how disempowered low-income Americans feel. Norwich South MP Clive Lewis was more concise and, by the looks of his tweets, a bit bewildered. Now, Annabelle Dixon, who's the political editor here at the Eastern Daily Press, has been in America this week. As the drama was unfolding, she sent us this from Times Square.
So I've just made it up to Times Square. I've been down at the Hillary campaign headquarters, and I've just got on the metro and come up to Times Square to see what's going on here. And certainly the atmosphere is a little bit febrile. I've already seen one confrontation, I wouldn't say a fight, but there's definitely two sides of the camp having frank exchanges. So we've had chants of lock her up, there's shouting, there's make America great again. As you can probably see behind me, there's a lot of police here, a lot of media here, but there's groups of both the two sides of the campaign who are very much having a frank exchange of views, let's say. Annabelle Dixon there in Times Square. Now, I'm delighted to say that joining me is Chris Hanratty, who's a politics expert at the University of East Anglia. Chris, thank you very much for coming in. I presume it was a long night for you, like it was a long night for many other people. Just how stunned were you by the result?
Yeah, pretty surprised. I mean, I think going into last night, you had people saying, well, Clinton's maybe an 80% chance, a 90% chance. So I don't think there was anyone saying it was going to be a toss-up. I don't think there was anyone saying, yeah, Trump's going to have a clear lead in the Electoral College. So I'm really pretty surprised. I think most people are. I think most people have a right to be surprised. And it's probably the most surprising election result in the past 60 years since Dewey versus Truman.
And looking at the result now with hindsight, how do you think we arrived at this? How did it happen? What won it?
So it's a bit strange because although we now know that Trump's won the Electoral College, it's not clear that he's won the popular vote. So we're going to have this situation where Clinton got more votes but ends up losing. So any explanation we have to come up with has to account for that. And the nearest I can get to an explanation is that there were lots of of rural white voters that Trump needed in states in the Midwest, and they all turned out to vote. And he got them exactly where he needed them. And all the votes that Democrats rack up in California or New York aren't going to change that outcome. So I think there's a story about turnout here, and there's also a story about white non-college graduates.
And the question most people will be asking sat at home is, what happens next? What happens next for the world? A nice small and easy question for you.
I guess the big question is whether Trump the president is going to be at all similar to Trump the candidate. And you would hope that the presidency is going to moderate him. I mean, the presidency is a crushing burden for anyone, having to deal with all these big problems. I'm not sure how he's going to react. And I think there are lots of policy areas where we just don't know, and there haven't been a lot of specifics released. So the answer to the question is, I'm not really sure, and I'm not sure anyone can be sure.
And what about for the UK? Because that's even more remote. I mean, how much of an impact could we see here from something that's happening miles away?
So I guess there might be impact on Britons working in the US. Trump said that he's going to look at different visa categories. So there might be issues for Britons working over there. The other big thing is post-Brexit, what are the chances of a US-UK trade deal? Now, Trump was relatively happy to say that the UK would be a priority for him. And now that the Republicans have the presidency, the House, the Senate, you would think that a US-UK trade deal could be good. So there might be some glimmer of hope for the UK.
And just sum up for us just how significant a moment this is. You obviously study politics a lot. You teach, you influence young people in this sphere. How significant will this moment come to be in years' time?
I think it's going to be probably one of the most significant elections in the US over the past 100 years. And I think it probably says a lot about US society in ways that maybe some people have picked up on. But there's one thing about an election victory, it clarifies things. And there are two sides to this election, and Trump's side won. And now we have to work out what that means.
So we've had all sorts of reaction from Norfolk, UK, but what about our counterparts in Norfolk, USA? I'm pleased to say that joining me on Skype is Andre Senior, the news anchor for the local television channel in Norfolk, Virginia. Andre, thank you very much for joining us. Just give us an idea of what the last 24 hours have been like.
It has been a really tense last 24 hours. The initial polls showed that Hillary Clinton would take the national election. At least that was the general idea anyway, based on polls that were taken, projections from the last presidential election. But the race had been closing in so much in the last 2 weeks. Specifically, we started seeing a tightening of the polls when the FBI director released that there might be another investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. We saw then Donald Trump take a surge, but no one really knew whether or not it would really lead to his victory because he continued to trail behind Hillary Clinton in the past couple of months. But the race started to tighten in the last 2 weeks, so that's why we became uncertain about the outcome of the election, and it's just really been tense. We had done partnerships with a local college here to poll voters in our area to see how the election would go, and as you can understand, as you might expect, those polls were off.
What's the mood like out on the streets? What's the mood been like this morning in America?
It has been really on both sides. We have had protests in the streets, specifically in Portland, Oregon this morning. There were rioting in the streets in Portland, Oregon after the voters there learned that Trump won the election. Here in Norfolk, Virginia, we are covering a story for our newscast coming up here shortly about people vandalizing Donald Trump signs that were on the front lawns of homes in our area. So I don't want to paint a picture as though this is a widespread issue, but we do have these smaller incidents that are happening in our area and around the country as well as people express their displeasure with what happened during the election.
So how do you see it panning out over the next few weeks? I mean, this is such a momentous event for the world, not just for America, but where do we go? The question on everyone's lips tonight is what next?
Okay, so right now we have the Trump campaign. It has been such a divisive campaign. You've probably played the sound bites there for your viewers in Norfolk, as we have heard here, and they can be very divisive comments. So right now, the Trump campaign person just came out with a statement a short time ago asking people to give Donald Trump a chance, meaning do not judge him based on what he said in the past is essentially what she's alluding to, and give him a chance to kind of govern and see where his policies will take them. Because right now, a lot of people's preconceived notion is that Donald Trump is only looking out for a certain segment of the population, such as conservatives, perhaps white conservatives, young white conservatives turned out in droves to elect Donald Trump. And there are a certain segment of the population here that are worried about their future. I can tell you this. I have been in this country for 30 years. I was originally born in Kingston, Jamaica. I never became a citizen because I never saw the need to. But after what happened today, my mother texted me and she urged me to proceed with my citizenship as early as possible, because you heard Donald Trump talk about deporting illegal immigrants and putting up a wall between the United States and Mexico. I am a permanent legal resident of the United States, but the concern that Donald Trump has an issue with illegal immigration as a whole has really permeated even for my own mother, who knows I am a permanent legal resident of this country, but is concerned that I might still get wrapped up in whatever plans that we don't know what the exact plans are for immigrants or illegal immigrants in this country from a Trump administration. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Now that's all we've got time for on this special News Extra, but we'll leave you with some closing thoughts from America's new president, Donald Trump.
You'll be so proud of your president. You'll be so proud. Again, it's my honor. It was an amazing evening. It's been an amazing 2-year period. And I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.